If you've been anywhere online recently, say in the run-up to 2026, you've definitely seen them. The charts, the viral posts, the really apocalyptic claims.
Oh, absolutely. They're everywhere.
The U.S. national debt has blown past $38 trillion. And there's this narrative building that all the smart money is just fleeing America.
And that a full-blown currency collapse is, what, 18 to 36 months away?
Exactly, that's the one.
Right. And that narrative, it really hinges on a mix of, well, some hard facts and some complete fiction.
So our mission today is to kind of pick that apart. We're going to apply what we call the truth sandwich approach.
Yes. We'll take the myth, we'll debunk it with facts, and then we'll replace it with the underlying systemic reality, which, frankly, is a lot scarier than any one headline.
We're basically looking at this four-stage historical pattern that past empires have followed. And the big question is, is the U.S. truly following that same script?
It is. And we have to start with the velocity, the sheer speed of the problem.
Right. Because while you've been listening to us just now, maybe you pause to grab a coffee, the U.S. debt has grown by hundreds of millions of dollars.
The confirmed data we have from late 2025, it shows the debt grew by an average of $6.12 billion.
Every single day.
Every single day. That's the starting gun for this whole collapse narrative. The gross national debt jumped by $2.3 trillion in just 11 months.
Hitting $38.4 trillion by the end of 2025. This isn't a forecast. This is the factual backdrop for all the fear.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's tackle the biggest piece of viral content first. The claim that the dollar officially died on June 9th, 2024.
Ah, yes. The great petrodollar myth.
The story was that a secret 50-year agreement between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia expired on that date. It wasn't renewed, and poof.
Yeah.
The dollar's global dominance was over.
And that specific claim is, to put it bluntly, a manufactured crisis.
Yeah.
The forensic debunking is actually pretty straightforward.
So there was no treaty.
There was no formal treaty, no rigid 50-year monetary agreement that said oil had to be priced in dollars. What actually expired on June 9th, 2024, was the technical charter for something called JCOR.
JCOR. What on earth is that?
It's the Joint Commission on Economic Cooperation. It was basically bureaucratic infrastructure.
So, not a currency pact.
Not at all. It was set up in 1974 to help Saudi Arabia recycle its huge oil surpluses back into the U.S. economy. Buying American infrastructure, military gear, technology. It was about cooperation, not a binding currency contract.
So the deadline was a myth. But I think dismissing it entirely misses the point. There's a real shift happening in the background, isn't there?
That is the systemic twist. The real threat isn't legal, it's technological.
Okay.
While everyone was distracted by this fake deadline, Saudi Arabia quietly joined something called Project mBridge. This is the key insight.
And mBridge is what, exactly?
It's a multi-CBDC platform, a central bank digital currency platform run by the Bank for International Settlements, and its members include major players like China and the UAE.
So it's an alternative payment system.
It is a direct alternative. It lets them settle cross-border trade instantly using their own digital currencies. It's designed specifically to bypass the U.S. dollar and the SWIFT system.
So the lesson for you is this. The dollar status isn't being threatened by a contract expiring. It's a quiet, technological migration away from the old financial rails. That's the real threat.
It's a slow erosion, not a sudden event.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's look at the history. Is the U.S. really on this well-trodden path to collapse? People point to the Bank of Amsterdam founded 1609 and claim it was basically the world's first Ponzi scheme.
Right, and that its collapse is a blueprint for today.
Is there any truth to that?
No. That's a crucial historical correction we need to make.
Yeah.
The Bank of Amsterdam was absolutely not a Ponzi scheme. For almost 180 years, it was the global gold standard for stability.
So what was it then?
It was a solvent public utility, a warehouse for money. It held near 100% metal reserves against its deposits. People actually paid a storage fee, the Bewaarloon, because it was so secure.
If it was so solid, then why did it fail? What brought it down?
Politics. Pure and simple. What we now call fiscal dominance. The state got involved.
How so?
In the late 18th century, politicians forced the bank to secretly lend its hard currency, its gold and silver, to bail out failing state-backed companies.
Most famously, the Dutch East India Company, the VOC.
The VOC, exactly. They essentially raided the gold that was supposed to be backing the currency to fund their geopolitical ambitions.
They broke the bank's own charter.
They did. And when the French Revolutionary armies marched into Amsterdam in 1795 and audited audited the books, they discovered the vaults were basically empty compared to the liabilities.
And confidence just evaporated.
Instantly. And that's the lesson for today. Looking at that $6 billion a day debt growth, the danger isn't fractional reserve banking itself, it's fiscal dominance.
It's the moment the central bank, our Federal Reserve, is forced to print money just to fund government spending.
The moment the government's ambition overrides the currency's health, that's when stability dies.
Which brings us directly to the people with the most at stake, the smart money. We all saw the headline. BlackRock is moving $2.1 trillion out of America.
This silent exodus, as they call it.
Is that really happening? Are they abandoning the U.S. economy?
This is a classic case of misdirection. You have to be really forensic with their 2026 Outlook reports.
And what do they actually say?
BlackRock is not fleeing the U.S. economy. Far from it. They're actually very bullish on America's private sector. Their strategists are still overweight U.S. equities.
They're betting on the innovators.
They're betting big on the AI megaforce. Think NVIDIA, Microsoft, the tech giants.
So if they're not leaving America, what are they leaving? Where's the rotation?
They are fleeing U.S. government debt.
Ah.
They're specifically underweighting long-term U.S. treasuries. Their analysis is that with so much debt and sticky inflation, those bonds just don't provide the safety, the ballast that they're supposed to.
So they don't trust the government to pay the debt back without devaluing the currency.
Exactly, either through higher inflation or financial repression. Both erode the value of those bonds.
So this is the big insight here. The world's largest asset manager is betting on American engineers and innovators.
But they are betting against American politicians' ability to manage a $38 trillion debt. It's a structural divorce of asset and currency.
A divorce built on pure math.
Pure math, which takes us to the structural trap. We've said it. $38.4 trillion in debt, fueled by $2.3 trillion in deficits in 2025 alone.
And the cost of just carrying that debt, the interest payments, that's become the point of no return. We hit a truly shocking milestone in 2025.
We did. The interest payments alone hit roughly $981 billion for the 12 months ending in October 2025.
To put that in perspective for you, that's more than the entire U.S. annual defense budget.
It creates this self-accelerating debt spiral. We have to borrow more money just to pay the interest on the money we've already borrowed.
And this spiral sets up this lose-lose policy choice for the Federal Reserve if inflation stays high.
It's a horrifying choice. A choice between government bankruptcy and currency destruction.
What's option A?
Option A is you save the currency. You do what Paul Volcker did in 1980. You raise interest rates dramatically to crush inflation.
But with $38 trillion in debt.
The interest payments would explode. It would make the debt unpayable. You'd trigger a sovereign default and a massive economic crash. Politically, it's almost impossible.
So that leaves them with only one real choice. Option B.
Choice B. You save the government, you keep rates low, maybe even lower them, and you just print the money to cover the deficits. You monetize the debt.
Which avoids a formal default but leads to
currency destruction. High inflation, maybe even hyperinflation. It's a soft default. Your debt gets paid back, but with dollars that are worth far, far less. It wipes out savers.
And the hole they're in is historically unprecedented. The total U.S. debt, that's government, corporate, household, is over $100 trillion.
It's around 370% of GDP. That's structurally higher than Britain was post-World War I or Spain during its imperial defaults. They are fighting this from a position of massive leverage.
Okay, finally, the timeline. The viral narrative says this is all mathematical, and it predicts a stage 4 collapse within 18 to 36 months of the smart money leaving. Is that timeline solid?
History would tell us to be very, very cautious about rigid timelines.
Why is that?
The 4-stage pattern is real. Financial overreach, capital flight, collapse. But the timing varies wildly. Take Britain's decline.
The last global reserve power.
Right. Stage 3, the capital flight, you could argue it started with the devaluation of the pound in 1949. But the final humiliation, the IMF bailout, wasn't until 1976. That took nearly 3 decades, not 36 months.
So it's more often a slow erosion than a sudden cliff edge event.
Exactly. But the evidence for that slow erosion for stage 3 is undeniable right now.
You can see it in the data.
You can. Look at China. Their holdings of U.S. Treasuries peaked in 2013 at about $1.3 trillion. By October 2025, they were down to just $689 billion.
That's a reduction of nearly half. They're actively de-risking away from the dollar.
And you see it across the board with central banks. The dollar's share of global reserves has fallen from over 70% to about 58% today, the lowest in 25 years.
But you found a fascinating contradiction in that data. It's not a uniform story.
No, and that's the nuance. While China is selling, Japan, which is the largest foreign holder, actually rebuilt its holdings to 1.2 trillion by late 2025.
Why would they do that?
For their own reasons. Currency defense, interest rate differentials. It shows that capital movement is mixed. It's not a single panic-fueled stampede for the exits.
So the synthesis is clear. We're in a slow erosion of dollar dominance, fueled by this 6 billion a day debt velocity. The collapse isn't likely to be one event, but a loss of network effect as more countries find ways to trade without the dollar. So what does this all mean for you? We've gone through our truth sandwich. The debt numbers, 38 trillion, a trillion in interest payments. Those are terrifyingly real. The historical parallels are there.
But the specific deadlines, the conspiracy theories like June 9th or the Bank of Amsterdam as a Ponzi scheme, that's fiction. It's clickbait. The real danger is the structural weakness, the fiscal dominance that forces the government to sacrifice the currency.
And every historical precedent shows what you need to do to prepare.
Yeah.
It points toward prudence and diversification.
Every single transition from a major reserve currency destroyed the purchasing power of anyone holding paper savings in that currency, from Spain to Britain.
So history suggests that the prudent steps are things like reducing your own high-interest debt and holding real, non-printable assets, gold, certain types of real estate. These are the things that preserved wealth when cash was wiped out.
And that leaves us with one final provocative thought. It goes back to that lose-lose choice facing the Fed. Crash the government with high rates or destroy the currency with the printing press.
Which path will they choose?
History suggests they will always choose the inflation path to avoid immediate political bankruptcy. So you have to decide now where you position yourself for that eventual choice.
In a scenario where central banks inevitably print, which assets will do well?
If history is any guide, the middle class holding cash and bonds loses. Those holding hard, non-printable assets preserve their wealth. You need to decide if you are positioned to win or to lose that policy choice.